Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about a little secret that makes Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 work so well. This is a thing that, it's an open world game with tons of mechanics, lots of things to do, and it still performs really well all the time. And you don't need a super high-end software to get it to go into Ultra and 4K. So I decided to take a look at what it is that makes it so great. And it turns out what makes it great is something actually very simple. And please, when I'm talking about this, watch the whole video before you comment or hit the dislike, because I know when I mention what it is, a lot of people are not going to like it, and it's gonna sound like I don't like the game, which I do. I love the game, but that's just what it is. It's just a simple thing that is making the game great, that when you mention it nowadays, people think that is actually something bad, but honestly, something very good. Let's get started. All right, here I am in the starting area, just to show you what I have for settings. Everything's in ultra. I know there's an experimental setting. I've tried it and it doesn't change any of the things that I'm going to show. So one of the things that somebody mentioned to me and I've seen, and I don't see the setting for it, why does this game function so well, is because it doesn't have ray tracing. Personally, don't think ray tracing has any place in games, because what it adds is very little in regards to what it takes. So the amount of hardware you need to get ray tracing running at a decent frame rate without hitches is a lot, to the point where not even the famous 5090, which no one can buy right now, can do. And that's why they have to rely on DLSS and all sorts of frame generation. Some people are fine with that. I am fine with that for certain single player games, but when it comes to multiplayer games, you should not use DLSS. That will be the death of you on every single game. So does ray tracing enhance the visual? Of course it does, but the amount of hardware that you need it's just nonsense. It makes no sense to use it, because the game looks great without it, can run great without it, and the eye candy that I provided is just not that much. All right, so that aside, let's go into why this game works so well. And some people are going to not like what I have to say, but here it is. The geometry is pretty simple. Yep, that's a big secret to why this game works so well on every single system, and why you don't need a ton of hardware just to make it run. The geometry, if you see it, is very simple. They use a lot of normal maps, which is fine, but overall the geometry is very simple, even with the terrain. And I say this because I'm an Unreal user and I usually crank things up all the way. And as you can see, most of the things that we have here are normal maps. And I'm not talking about texture resolution, I'm talking about geometry, because geometry is one of the things that cost a lot when you're rendering, aside from textures, of course, and some VFX. But the amount of geometry that you have on scene can affect a lot. And the other thing regarding the geometry being simple, well, the textures are kind of simple too. They don't have any, oops, there's an error right here. Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to show that, but yeah, there's a seam error right here. Moving on. The textures is what you've seen in most games, which is just a diffuse, a normal map. I don't know if they have ambient occlusion. Look, there's some stretching right here. As you can see, you see this lines going on right here, where there's this nice rock that happens to bend in a very particular angle. It's because this doesn't have geometry for the rocks. This is just a normal map. Now let's go and hopefully this guy doesn't get mad at me for looking at him so much. But if you look at the, let's look at somebody that's actually just staying in place. The doggies and the chicken look pretty nice. Yeah, that doggy's pretty nice. But let me see if I can find somebody. Yeah, this map used to be full of people. Now that I need somebody to show you something, then there's no one here. Okay, there's that person right there. There's someone right here. I wonder if I can enter. Okay, there's this woman coming out. Butcher. Am I gonna get in trouble for going in here? Apparently not. Okay, let's look at. I'm assuming this guy is not the butcher. It says hired hand.
Did you drop something?
So if you look at the clothing that they're wearing, the geometry on the clothing compared to something like Baldur's Gate 3. That's a good comparison because it's an RPG game. Recent times compared to something like Baldur's Gate 3, this clothing is a lot more simple. And if we look at the face of this character, you see that there's not a lot of detail regarding wrinkles or anything like that. It's just a diffuse. And I know this is supposed to be an NPC, but even when you see Henry in the cutscenes and you see that there's a little bit of stylization to him, he isn't 100% realistic. So that also helps. You don't have a ton of characters on screen in this game, which again, it's a choice. I wouldn't say it's good or it's bad, but the fact that the characters are much simpler geometry wise helps a lot with the performance. Now if we look at this pile of I don't know if it's poo-poo with some hay or whatever, it is one big piece of geometry, which probably with some alpha maps for those straw, if they are separate mesh, I cannot tell if they're one single texture. So these things right here are one single texture. These things right here maybe not, but this is one single texture. And as you can see, it's all a diffuse map with a normal map on top. Does it even have ambient occlusion on it? I'm not sure. And you can see like the blades of grass, they are pretty simple. So this isn't even like specific foliage. It's just, and you can do this in Unreal with texturing too. You don't even have to animate these. You just add a vertex movement to it and it works. So yeah, that is the big secret of this game. The geometry for a game of these days, I'm not gonna say it's outdated, it's just simple geometry. That's what it is. Okay, so at this point, you're probably angry in the comments typing that none of the things that I'm saying matters because this is a fun video game, and it is. My argument with this video is not to say that this game is bad, it's actually to say the game is good because of this. We don't need, and honestly, I don't know who told studios that we need the most uber realistic possible graphics in order to enjoy a game. I think a game that looks like this is perfectly fine, and I think it's very immersive. Everything looks amazing to me, and the fact that it runs this well with such an open world, I consider it a feature, not a problem. I used to work as a game artist. I still do game art for my day job, not for video games, but for something else. I like to do very, very good graphics for cinematics, for the short films that I'm making. I don't need my games to look like a cinematic all the time. I know some people do, but I think they are not the majority. And what we would like from games is just to work well. Just to work well, work above 60 frames per second all the time. That is the thing that we're looking for in games. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment because that helps a lot. Share this video around. My socials are downstairs, my X account and the Discord account if you want to join the discussion and a big community. I'll see you in the next one.